Get ready to take your body to the elite level of performance. Call today to set up your free evaluation. 765-499-1005. Elite Performance, where the dream of elite fitness becomes a reality.
Yeah, that was a little choppy this morning there, Tim. I guess it's feeling rough like we are from celebrating an epic weekend so far of baseball playoffs, postseason. It's Red October right here. Tim, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling hydrated. I'm feeling refreshed. The Philadelphia Phillies are back in the playoffs. They ended the careers of Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright. It's over. It's done. Bring on the Braves.
Yeah, that was I'm the only one that called it, that the Phillies would sweep the Cardinals. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, buddy.
Hey, listen, as Phillies fans, we are excited. It's been 11 years since they've been in the playoffs, 12 years since they've won a playoff series.
And 2 games we had to listen from
Yankees broadcasters. So we're a little hyped this morning with the Phillies sweeping the Cardinals 2-0, opening wild card weekend. We have a lot to talk about, more than just postseason baseball. So we're going to go ahead and get into that so we can get into the postseason talk. And the 2 biggest stories since the last time we did this, other than the fact that the umpiring sucks and we hate Keith Hernandez.
And Angel Hernandez.
We're going to go right into this one. Congratulations to this man. So we just talked about it, ended his career, but he has joined the elite 700 home run club. See if I can get this.
It's one of the few bets I actually won in my very short gambling career of Pujols actually hitting 700. So
yeah, so a little bit on this. Pujols becomes the 4th member of the 7 home run club. One of which, as you can see, there's an asterisk right at the top, Mr. Barry Bonds. There's a lot of questions whether that his home run record is valid. We'll just put it that way.
It's valid.
It's valid, but we'll keep the asterisk there. That'll be a topic here that we're gonna get into here in a little bit. Date of each home run, and it is kind of impressive to see. Bonds hit his at the end of the season in 2004, and Pujols hit his 700 at the end of the season in 2022. So, been 18 years since we've seen somebody hit their 700th home run.
It's going to be quite some time before you see another, too.
Absolutely. But going through the list here, Barry Bonds at 762, Hank Aaron at 755, Babe Ruth 714, and Albert Pujols 703. Tim, the big question I'm gonna ask you, because we've talked about this, if Pujols had those healthy years in LA, does he come close or does he break Barry Bonds' record?
I don't think he breaks it. You got to remember too, Pujols in LA, he had a year or 2 of just injuries that derailed everything, but it was also the beginning of his decline. His last year in St. Louis, everybody freaked out because it was the first time in his career he hit under 300. He hit 299 on the year. And he never sniffed, I'd even say like 280 in his career with the Angels. So it's just his natural decline as any older player gets, but he still would have hit 700 no matter what. Even if he was healthy, I think he definitely would have passed Ruth. I don't know about Aaron. I don't think he was catching Bonds. I don't think we're going to see anybody catch Bonds.
Yeah, no.
Not until like we're old men, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Just for context purposes, Barry Bonds was no player has ever went from 600 to 7 home runs quicker than Bonds. He needed only 308 games, less than 2 full seasons, to go from one landmark to the other. His 700 home run came off of right-hander Jake Peavy, who also served up his number 616 and 638 during the 2003 home run season.
Who was the pitcher that gave up 756 though?
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't remember his name. I know he's a lefty from the Nationals.
Yeah.
That's a trivia question for everybody out in social media world.
If you can, if somebody knows the answer to that, that'd be awesome. I'm not looking it up because next, Hank
I
Aaron.
could look it up, but I'm too lazy.
Hank Aaron sprinted to 700 homers in July of 1973. His monumental dinger came at the end of a stretch where he went deep 6 times in 8 games. He would go on to hit 13 home runs over the final 44 games that season. So, that goes to show you how impressive some of these numbers are. Babe Ruth, obviously the first to 700.
Look at the gap too between the years. Like you mentioned, between Bonds and Pujols. Like look at the gap between Aaron and Ruth.
And not even just that. Hank Aaron hit his. So what? 8 days and almost 40 years before Hank Aaron did. So Ruth had 123 homers versus the Detroit Tigers, which is the most against any team. So he got his 700th home run off of Tigers right-handed pitcher Tommy Bridges.
Somebody's reading a stat line.
Yeah. At that point, Lou Gehrig and Rogers Hornby were the only players who had hit even 300 home runs. So at that point in 1934, only 2 players had 300 home runs, and Babe Ruth cleared 700.
Hot dogs and beer, baby. That's all you need.
And then
Hot dogs and beer.
A little bit here about Albert Pujols. Pujols actually hit his 699th and 700th in the same game, which they were showing all of that on TV while everybody was trying to watch everything in September there. He had 11 games left, and he hit the first one. Well, it was at Dodger Stadium. I think he hit 698, early in the game? 699, I mean?
699 was earlier in the game. 700 came later, yeah.
Yeah, like 4 innings later, he hit 700.
Yeah, and he crushed both of them, too.
Yeah.
So, in a classic Pujols homer, just sent it to the moon.
And he becomes the first Latino player to hit 7 home runs. So, and we don't know if there's any legitimacy to him having steroid use or not, because obviously he's just a big dude.
Nah, they would have caught it by now.
Yeah. So we got Mr. accused of steroids, but was never found guilty of it. Leading the 700 home run club, Hank Aaron, probably one of the best home run hitters of all time. Babe Ruth, hot dogs and beer, and Albert Pujols. So pretty impressive. Pretty impressive numbers, though. I mean, I didn't think we'd ever see it. After Bonds, I didn't think we'd ever see another 7 home run hitter.
After Bonds, I didn't think we'd see another 60 homer season.
Yeah, we'll get into that one here shortly. So what do you think, Tim? You said it. Probably won't ever see this come close. For old men, but
another 700.
If there's someone that could hit 700 currently in baseball, who's it going to be?
You would need somebody young, somebody to stay healthy, somebody who has a proven track record of just hitting homers. You think your first instant thoughts are guys like Trout and Harper, both who lost, a year or two due to injuries. Trout now has a back injury he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his career, even though he just clubbed 40. So, your first thought is Trout if he stays healthy. Harper might have a chance. Judge is older. But after this season, if he can average 40 or 50 a year, which is a tough task, maybe he's got a shot. I think we see a lot more guys settle into the 600 club, but 700 is going to be a stretch for a lot of guys right now.
Well, you figure, so Pujols is allegedly 42 years old, so you're talking if somebody like Harper, for example, is at 285 career, and he's 29, you're talking 13 more years of him potentially healthy hitting home run. Now, if he is consistent and is hitting a lot of home runs at 285 right now, he'll clear 500, maybe push 600. Right now, if I had to make a guess of young guys and he's off to a good start, maybe Julio Rodriguez if he stays on at least 25, 30, 40 home run pace.
Yeah. But I mean, those are the things too. You have to hit, we're talking like 25 home runs for what, 12 or more years? 15?
Well,
20? I don't know. I don't do math.
Well, Pujols has been in the league for 22 years, so.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think what his average home run total was per year. It had to be like 30.
About 30, just under 32 home runs a season.
Yeah. So, I mean, Julio's got to step it up a little bit, but,
But he's young.
It's a young guy who's still coming into his career. So,
and just for argument purposes, Bonds averaged about 35 home runs a year. But you got to figure in early on in his career, he was hitting home runs, but he was he was
a stud. He was stealing bases.
He was hitting for average. Like
he was a gap hitter.
Yeah.
So he was a gap. I mean, he was a skinny stick who could fly and had some pop. And then all of a sudden, your head grows 3 hat sizes, and you add 45 pounds of muscle in one off season.
And in 2 years, you go from 600 to 700 home runs.
Yeah, I mean, didn't get caught, but all the signs are there.
Yeah. So we'll get rid of that one, and we'll go into the next record breaker that happened. And yes, I included this in the banner here, Tim. All rise for Mr. Aaron Judge. Congratulations. 62 home runs in a season is a huge feat, which brings up the argument when we're going to look at this here. Aaron Judge sets AL record. Yeah, Aaron Judge.
I thought I had a problem reading headlines this morning.
Sets AL record. Now, just to clarify, on the left-hand side, Tim thought that was all the American League teams. That's the Yankees single-season leaderboard. On the right-hand side is the single-season home run leaderboard. If I'm not mistaken, though, Judge is 62 in the American League. Beats out pretty much every other Yankee player that had over 50 home runs anyways, because I don't think there was that many in the American League that have hit over 50 in their career in one season.
What, in terms of Yankees?
I'm talking about in general. Since Judge broke the American League record, which was held by Roger Maris, I think most of the guys behind Maris were Yankee players anyways that had over 50 home runs in a season. So, because all the other records were on the right-hand side with Bonds, McGuire, Sosa, all National League guys during the steroid era where steroids made ball go boom.
Yeah. See ball, hit ball.
Right.
The 90s, the grip it and rip it mentality.
But if we're looking at single season totals, Bonds leads that one again, 73 home runs. Question mark on that number.
There's a question mark on all of those outside of Maris, Ruth, and Judge.
Right. Which is going to bring up the big question is...
Though at least McGuire is one of those guys who did come out and admit it, but it was a half-ass admission.
Yeah.
To say the least. Or if I remember correctly, his whole admission was, I could have hit the home runs anyway. The steroids didn't help me hit the home runs.
It healed me.
It healed me, which
he's not wrong in that aspect.
He's not wrong, but you also have to figure in, you healed quicker, which means you can train harder, which means you can add more muscle, which means the steroids are helping you get the muscle to get the ball out of the yard more often because you're healthy. It's a vicious circle. We all wind up back into the bag.
Well, what's impressive, though, despite the steroid allegations against Bonds, the McGuire being proven and Sosa being proven to be on steroids, Judge hitting 62 in a season without any controversy of him possibly being on steroids, testing positive for steroids, anything like that, obviously yet. Him hitting 62.
Not saying he did.
We're not accusing him.
But we also have to think here, look at the other guys on this list. Like I said, Ruth, Maris, Judge. And then we're talking about not guys in the 90s juicing. So,
well,
it all comes with the territory. I guess when you hit home runs, you always have to second guess or have that thought in the back of your head.
What helps Judge's case is if you look there on the left-hand side, 2017, he also hit 54 home runs.
Oh yeah,
and it's also in his defense of, because what's been so annoying, I'm so glad that he did it, was that them cutting into every little thing that you were watching on TV to show him strike out at every at bat until he hit 62. He was hitting the ball pretty well. He was in contention for the Triple Crown till the last game when they benched him. He was like .04 or .004 for batting average of winning the Triple Crown, and they benched him, so he ended up not winning the American League Triple Crown. So he was a pretty good hitter. He was right around 300 for the season. So it's not like he was just hitting home runs. He was hitting the ball well all year long. He should be, in my opinion, the American League MVP. But
yeah, so let's see here. So batting average, he finished for 5 points behind Reyes. Let's see, on base slugging, at bats, plate appearances, hits. Let's see, 177. Home runs, obviously first. RBI, obviously first.
Yeah,
and he had those in a landslide. So 4 points off the Triple Crown.
Yeah. So I mean, congratulations to him with the single season home run record for the Yankees and the American League. And that brings up my big question, because this is going to be a nice topic, and this is why I was saving it for a show like this, so we can expand on this and then talk about the playoffs. Who is the real home run king, Tim?
It's I hate to say it, it's Barry Bonds.
And the reason, well, we're gonna switch back to this here in a second, but just to
yeah,
touch on
this is the quote to look at. Yeah, you break it down. Bonds hit 73 balls. You saw it with your eyes. It happened. The ball left the yard 73 times. The steroids don't put the bat on the ball. The steroids don't give you the quick reflexes. Steroids help you recover. Steroids help you build muscle. We all know Bonds put on 25, 45 pounds of muscle in a single off season. There's a little help in there, because that's definitely not natural unless God comes down and touches you one night and says, muscle man.
Yeah. So just so everybody is clear, Jeff Bassan is one of the beat writers for MLB, and I believe he's on ESPN at times. It is a fact that Bonds used PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, steroids. It is also a fact that 73 balls he hit flew over the fence in 2001. One colors the other. It cannot erase it. I hate to agree with Tim on this, because we hate agreeing with each other
anyway.
Yeah. Well, if everybody has noticed on this, well, not that one, this one, sorry. On this one, I put the asterisks because there is a big question mark. He was a steroid user. It's hard to deny that he was a steroid user and that he did not juice to inflate all these numbers that he has. But this quote sums it up the best. He hit 73 home runs in a season, period.
Yeah, it happened.
So it happened. We all saw it.
You can't erase it.
Yep. It's unfortunate. But in my opinion, there needs to be – it's just like comparing eras of all sports when it comes to football, baseball, hockey, basketball, whatever. Who's the greatest in this era? Who's the greatest in this era? Barry Bonds is the greatest home run hitter of the steroid era, period. That's the era of baseball where the steroid scandal happened, where the home runs were crazy and the numbers were high and the balls were different. We're in a different era of baseball now where pitching is the big thing. Aaron Judge is the greatest home run hitter of this current era. He is the single season home run record for this current era.
Let's see. I'm looking up something here, because there is a good comment there in the chat of the 73 home run season. How many intentional walks? I'm trying to find that right now. See, he was walked 177 times, but I'm trying to find intentional. Intentionally, that can't be right.
And your dad is right on this one. Funny how hitting 300 doesn't mean squat anymore before home run or bust mentality. There would be 15 to 20 players hitting well over 300 every year. The problem with this, though, now is the way the pitchers are and the way the balls are. It frowns upon guys hitting average. They want to bring back pitchers pitching and batters hitting home runs. That was a discussion we had earlier in the year in one of our earlier shows about the change of the balls, the bats, the way guys are swinging. I mean, we've had this argument before. Tim and I have, not taking away anything from Schwarber, but Schwarber hit 40-some home runs, and averaged, I think it was like 217 for the year. That's what baseball wants. They want guys hitting 40, 50 home runs a year. They don't want them hitting average. They want home
the
runs.
bomb.
Right. Of those 177, most of those would be pitch arounds.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm looking here. It's 177 walks. That was for the entire year. Apparently, only 35 of those were intentional. The real big one is in 2004 when he won his 4th straight MVP out of the 7. 2004, he had 232 walks, 120 of those intentional. So 2004 was even worse in terms of walking him.
Yeah. So we'll put that question out for everybody else. Who is your home run king? Tim and I both agree that Bonds is the home run leader, but like I said, I think if you're going to do it as a statistical category, because we know Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa are not going to see the Hall of Fame unless somehow miraculously they get included.
If they get in, then A-Rod has to sit there and get in, and
it'd be based
Rafael Palmeiro has to get in. And
it'd be on the Baseball Raiders, like the Legends category that they'd get in on. But they are the greatest home run hitters of the steroid era. I think Judge right now is the greatest home run hitter of our current era, with the way baseball is nowadays. So, but awesome feat to see though in person. I mean, we never got to see him play in person, but being around, seeing this now, think about it.
I've seen him in person. I've just never, obviously not this year, but dude's a monster in person. Like literally a tower.
Yeah. But look at so Tim, for us, I mean, for those that can tell, Tim and I are obviously we're not around to see Maris and Ruth and Mantle and all that.
Don't say.
But for us, we got to see now an era where
we grew up with the Reuters.
Yep, and now to see Judge do what he's done is just unreal.
Yeah, we saw. Well, what we would have seen, we would have been kids with the first baseball strike. We saw a second strike.
Yeah.
Saw a shortened pandemic season. The steroid eras, the questions with the Hall of Fame. There's in our short 30-some years of life so far, we've seen a lot of stuff, to put it lightly.
Yeah. Well, you ready for the big topic? Because I've been itching at this one all weekend now.
Let's get the drum roll going.
The MLB postseason is here on us. It's MLB Wildcard Weekend. Started Friday. This bracket's not updated. This is what we were giving you, though. The matchups looked great going in on Friday. We were all so excited about this. We put some of our picks out there.
I lost the majority of them.
So far, of all the weekend games, only one has gone to Game 3. That's today. That's San Diego versus the Mets. I believe it's sometime tonight. Everything else was a sweep. Let's start on the American League side first, Tim. Tampa Bay, Cleveland. Actually a pretty good series. And yesterday's game proved it, that it was one of the most outrageous series for a wild card weekend.
It was a crazy game, and I'll go on record here saying that it was one of the most poorly managed games.
Yeah.
When you have bases loaded with no outs and you can't get anybody in. When you're in extra innings, you've got guys on first and third without the ghost runner, thank God. You can't get anybody in. And, of course, what ends that 15-inning game? A solo home run.
Yep.
So, again, bomb or bust. When we can't even get one guy in, we can't play small ball to move a guy to third or move a guy to second to get into scoring position,
Let's talk about,
just poorly managed.
Let's talk about in that game. Because we were
watching and even, sorry to cut you off there too, but even just remembering Terry Francona is a pretty good baseball mind, and you're telling me Cleveland can't play small ball?
Let's touch on a little bit in that game, because the pitching in that game actually wasn't bad.
No, the pitching was great, but you still have to manufacture runs.
Well, I'm saying in general. So just looking at it here, you had in that game Glasnow versus McKenzie. Glasnow went 5 innings, pitched a gem. We were watching that game a little bit before the Phillies came on. He only gave up 2 hits, had 63 pitches, and was pulled early in the game, which kind of like you kind
Well,
of
he's
baffled me. Why would you pull him with how well
well,
he was
he's
pitching?
also coming off of Tommy John.
Right.
This is only like his probably third or fourth game back.
Then their bullpen came in, pitched decent, only gave up 3 hits after the bullpen got put into the game. And the Guardians, I about called them the Indians. They're always going to be the Indians to me. I'm sorry. Cleveland decided, you know what? We're gonna stretch our bullpen a little bit here. And they almost blew it. Their bullpen struggled extra innings. Look, like you said, bases loaded. How do you not score?
How are you not going to run? You're telling me nope. Even in the back of your mind, you're not even thinking, possibly suicide squeeze or safety squeeze. To get one run, you have to get one run. We're literally in
do or die. A do or die situation.
Do or die, win today, and with all these teams going up against everyone's ace, we're not going to see the 4 and 5 starters come out all that often. It's going to be numbers 1 and 2 coming on 3 or 4 days rest. And you're going to have to get one run off of the best guys every team has to offer. You have to get one run. It's a race to get 1 or 2.
Yeah.
We're not going to see too many games like Seattle-Toronto where it's like 10-9.
Well,
I mean, they could happen, but for the most part, most of these games are close nail-biters.
But we also got to remember who we're talking about here, because first off, beginning of the year, none of us thought Cleveland would be in this position to begin with. Tampa Bay, we kind of thought would be up there for how good that they've played over the past couple of years.
Off reputation, yeah.
Yeah. This was probably one of the weirdest, I wouldn't say the weirdest first round matchups for the wild card, but it was one that I really wasn't expecting, especially being Cleveland winning their division of all teams to win the Central.
Everybody thought it was probably going to be Chicago.
Yeah, and they
tanked.
They tanked. We're going to talk about tanking when we get to the right. We'll talk about tanking when we get to the right side of the bracket here. But let's talk a little bit here. Cleveland now faces the Yankees. Yankees, number 2 team in the American League. One of the probably best years that they've had since they won the World Series when they beat us in 2009. What do you think? What do you think of this matchup for the ALDS?
I mean, it all depends if New York bats can come to life. If the bats are on, then it really doesn't matter who you're throwing out there, especially when they've got Garrett Cole and Nasty Nestor Cortez out there. I think Cleveland might squeak by and get like a game or 2, but in the end, New York's going to win that series, I think.
I think the one thing that's saving, or is going to be Cleveland's saving grace, is the fact that Bieber should be able to pitch in either game 1 or 2 on short rest, because he pitched game 1 of the wild card. I think they don't come on till Tuesday. I think their series starts on Tuesday as well. So that's going to help them out in that aspect. But when it comes to just absolutely being, I guess, prepared and ready and rested, I don't know if I really want to go up against the Yankees after a wild card weekend like that.
And you would be right. That game would start Tuesday, and then the game tonight starts at 7.
Yeah. So, and we know Mr. Francora, in his past as a Yankee or a Red Sox manager, has pitched guys on short rest in the playoffs before. So Bieber probably getting the start in game 1 against the Yankees is very well likely going to happen. I don't want to speculate, but that would be my guess. I believe then the Yankees would probably go with Garrett Cole.
Yeah, Garrett Cole should clear number 1 in New York.
So that could be a decent matchup, pitching wise. Hitting wise, I think the Yankees are probably going to have the better bats. It's hard to pick against the Yankees in that series. Hopefully, maybe Cleveland will surprise us. You got number 2 versus number 3. So,
playoff baseball, anything can go. Anything can happen.
And with that mentality, let's go to the bottom part of that bracket on the American League side. Seattle, Toronto. And you, first off, before we get into, you sent me this, and I want to read it off to people.
Just throw it up there. Can you throw the image up?
I can. Let me present my screen here once. Hold on.
Present screen.
All right. So last year was a trailer. Now you guys are going to see the movie Vlad Jr. And Seattle sweeps the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto. Seattle had the largest American League playoff drought, and they come in there and absolutely just played baseball. I mean, last night's game, they were down by 7, rallied back and won 10-9. Unbelievable.
I mean, that we talk about teams that refuse to die. Seattle is definitely one of those teams right now.
There you go. Mariners only committed 60 errors all year. They are a very, very good baseball team. It just so happens that they're stuck in a division that's just brutal. Yeah, we'll say brutal. But man, what a game last night that was, Tim.
That was an insane game, and just all over. Like, and you think too, I even took Toronto as one of my possible World Series team at the beginning of the year, and thinking that the young studs there would show up to play, and Seattle's guys just came out and said, "Yeah, well, you got to wait till next year," and just smacked them. Came out, gritted their teeth, put the bat on the ball, and just smacked them.
And I mean, we didn't talk about it, but first game, Seattle had Luis Castillos on the mound, and they blanked the Blue Jays 4-0. But you kind of sat there and you realize you're like, there's no way Toronto's going to get shut out in both games. There's too much talent on that team for them to not only get swept, but to have no runs scored.
And then what I really like about Seattle right now is their, I don't know if he's the closer or if he's their setup guy, but that Munoz guy.
Oh, dude
is filthy.
Yeah.
Dude is pure filth.
And
almost 100 mile per hour fastballs, high 90s power slider. Dude, filthy.
The way the game was going last night, and well, mind you, George Springer did leave the game later on in the game with an injury.
Yeah, saw that. They collided out in center field.
But his bat's been really cold in this series. So they went with Kevin Gausman to start game 2 last night, which surprised me. I thought they would have went with Stripling as the number 2 guy.
Gausman's the guy. Had he not missed a couple months of the season, he probably would have been up there for AL Cy Young winner.
I don't disagree, but I think in a situation like that where you just got shut out 4-0 to probably one of the best pitchers in the American League. Not the best pitcher, because he's on the Houston Astros.
Yeah,
one of the best pitchers on the American League side, and I would have went with the guy that's gotten you there in Stripling, but they didn't do it. And I mean, I hate to keep touching on pitching matchups and stuff, but like last night watching Robbie Ray pitch the way he pitched last night was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
I mean, pitching wins games. Good pitching always beats good hitting, so you always got to stress the pitching matchup.
Yeah, and what killed me with that though is like because we were looking at it, and I looked at you and I told you Robbie Ray, it's not going to last in this game. He went 3 innings.
Yeah, and that's always the thing with Robbie Ray. It seems like he'll go out there and have like a really great start, and then all of a sudden just be kind of average or below average.
So I really thought Toronto was going to hold on to win that game, but Seattle just Seattle's at okay. So Seattle's
gritted their teeth.
Yeah, Seattle. It's so hard to root against them right now. They're a really good baseball team, and and Julio went 0-for-4 last night. So
J.P. Crawford had that 3-run double on the blue pit where Springer got hurt. So former Philly coming through.
Yeah, of all people to get rid of you, and
well, I don't think J.P. Crawford was ever gonna, blossom in Philadelphia. There's just too much. He was the guy. You never want to be the guy to replace a legend.
Yeah,
you don't want to. You coming in to take over for J-Roll like that. It was never going to end well. Same thing for the Yankees for the guy who came after Jeter. Like, look what happened to Didi.
Yeah. Well, that gives us now the matchup that I probably would have said wasn't going to happen either. Houston versus Seattle in the ALDS.
God, I want Seattle to go on.
Yeah, Houston's
I
still my
want
World Series pick, though.
I want Seattle and New York in the ALCS, and they can give us that classic replay of Martinez. Martinez ripping the ball down left field line and Griffey running the bases.
Yeah.
Get to see that on a loop.
It's hard. It's gonna be so hard for them against Houston, though. We saw last 3 games of the regular season for the Phillies for them to try and make it into the playoffs.
But Houston rolled out the B lineup in the first game.
Actually, no, not necessarily, because Dusty Baker
pulled the guys.
They pulled them, but Dusty Baker flat out said he's like, I was playing my guys through the end of the year because we clinched. Like,
you need to stay fresh. But they still pulled the guys, and then of course, one of the last games of the year in Houston, Verlander only goes 5 innings but strikes out 10. And of course, that was the Phillies' hangover lineup, but still struck out 10 guys.
I still think Houston's the best team. I don't think they're gonna sweep Seattle, but I want to be wrong. I want to say Seattle has a chance in this because everybody has a chance in the postseason, but Houston's just so good. Their pitching is so much better than everybody else.
Seattle's gonna take 1 or 2.
I think they get 1 game, maybe at home. But Houston's just so good. It's hard to root for Houston for what they went with the scandal that they put in to, oh, look, we got our 3rd guy here. Look at that. He joined us finally.
In the car.
What's up, gents?
Oh, man.
Headed to the in-laws.
We're talking.
Oh, man. Well, who? This is why you jump on, Go to the in-laws and talk baseball. You got to keep your mind sane somewhere.
So we're wrapping up the American League side, John. We're talking about the Houston-Seattle ALDS matchup. My World Series pick of Houston. I said they beat the Mariners basically in 5 games because the Mariners have no prayer in the world against Houston. What do you think of all the baseball games last night, though? We haven't talked about the Philly game yet, but we talked about the Tampa Bay Cleveland game.
We were waiting for you.
And the Seattle-Toronto game last night.
The Cleveland game was crazy, that's for sure. Absolutely. Couldn't get the Padres to finish off the Mets, right? It's a little tough. But, the game of the night, I think, was the Philly game, for us at least.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that side of the bracket now next. Let's just go right into it. Philly, St. Louis. What a
goodbye, Pujols. Goodbye, Wainwright. Goodbye, Molina. Enjoy retirement.
First off, Friday's game was just absolutely. Who would have thought?
Yeah, you were packing up. Tracy's over at my house watching the game. Yeah. It's the 8th inning. This game's over.
Well, you even agreed. Well, hold on. And you agreed with me though when they brought in their closer. When Hoskins struck out, we both were just like, "Oh, this ain't good." Because their closer was on point, and then all of a sudden the floodgates opened, and what in the world happened?
I can tell you what happened. The guy got gassed.
Yeah.
How the turntable?
What were you saying, John?
Right. How the turntables have turned for the Phillies, right? We used to see our bullpen blow it like on the other side where you see a bullpen implode, and really, Phillies didn't hit any bombs, nothing, no multi-base hits. It was just like chip away, and like Rob Tom said, resiliency is what it comes down to, right? You get a hit by pitch, a handful of walks. Castellanos took a pretty timely walk. Harper took a big walk. Baum got hit. It just all comes together when you put yourself in that position. So we'll take it.
Yeah, that was probably the most stressful last 2 outs of a game when Hoskins strikes out, and then you're just like, oh, God. And the most loyal fans in baseball leave after the Phillies take a 3-2 lead.
The best fans in baseball.
Yeah.
The best fans in baseball. Yeah, the Angels fans are so great, and the LA fans are so great they show up late, and the St. Louis fans are so great they leave early.
Yeah. That takes us into last night then. What a way to start Mr. Harper with a bomb to right field, start the scoring off, and then Nola just did his thing. Give him the lead, and he's going to pitch a gem. Him and Wheeler both pitched gems. Wheeler was probably untouchable on Friday. Nola gave up a couple hits here and there, tough situations. But then the bullpen came through once again, but it got a little hairy there in the 9th inning with Mr. Eflin.
There's those Brett Myers closing vibes.
Oh,
Bring
God.
the starter in.
Yeah.
Talked about this already. I don't know if he will be the main guy moving forward for sure. The Phillies don't have a defined closer, as we all know, obviously. They have options, but Eflin seems like an intriguing one, and he's done what he needed to, but it didn't make you feel all warm and fuzzy about it.
Yeah, it definitely gave you some Mitch Williams vibes.
Yeah. Great atmosphere, though, after the game. Watching videos in their locker room. They might be the best party team when it comes to winning. But the electricity and the vibe that they have right now is just unreal. None of us, I mean, expanded playoffs help, but I don't think any of us really expected us to possibly make a run in the playoffs, but there's just a different vibe with them right now that I like the matchup against Atlanta. I'd rather see them play Atlanta right now than the Dodgers.
And I'd rather play Atlanta over the Mets too. The Mets have owned Philadelphia all year.
Well, yeah. Well,
they've at least won a couple games against the Braves.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and talk about the mucking Fets. Yeah. The 10.5 game division lead gone. Their
amazing closer with the super entrance for social media, getting ripped apart with
Timmy
tax.
Trumpet. Timmy Trumpet.
What
a joke.
Feeble. They're feeble.
Yeah. Keith Hernandez, you can eat it. Doesn't want to broadcast during a Phillies game.
I don't want to work Phillies games. They're not fundamentally sound.
Yeah. Meanwhile, first game against San Diego, spanked. Here, we'll just
I hear him. I heard audio.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't get finished off yet. There's a pulse. I don't like to say it. I don't like to think it, but they and Scherzer's obviously hurt. I mean, Scherzer was obviously not right. And look, who cares, right? I mean, we want the Mets to lose. Let's be real. I mean, it's what it is. But DeGrom going, it's hard. Well, I mean, this changes if they do make it out of this round. If you have Scherzer, who is either not himself or not going at all, that changes.
Well, Scherzer's always had a thing too, where you have to get to him early, and if you get to him early, you got a shot. You can't let a guy like him settle in. So if you were able to jump on him early, and clearly San Diego did that with what they smacked 4 home runs off of him.
Yeah, that was glorious. Glorious. There's nothing better than watching Scherzer give up 4 home runs in the opening game of the wild card, where they shouldn't have been in the wild card anyways because they blew a 10.5 game lead, a division lead, and that was the most glorious thing in the world. Too bad San Diego couldn't finish them off last night, but we get to see him hopefully finish them off tonight.
Who's the pitching matchup tonight? I'm pretty sure. I'm going to assume the Mets are pitching Bassett,
and it's probably going to be Musgrove.
No, I think it's Bassett.
What about Darvish?
Darvish pitched last night.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, it's Musgrove and Bassett tonight.
Okay.
Give me Joe Musgrove all day.
Joe Musgrove, the guy who wants to win another World Series because he doesn't like wearing his Houston Astros one around.
Yep. So, but whoever wins that gets to face the arguably, everybody says the best team in baseball. I don't think so. Just based on pure record, they are the LA Dodgers. I think LA versus San Diego could be a very awesome matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter really who the Dodgers end up playing. I think the Dodgers move on anyway.
Yeah. So we're basically looking at the Dodgers versus Philly or Atlanta in the NLCS.
Wouldn't that be something to beat the Dodgers in the NLCS again? If we could somehow get a long drive into the night again. Deep to right field, it's a pinch hit home run by Matt Stairs.
Hey, just so here's some breaking
And
news.
Joe Buck won't be on the call.
Here's some breaking news out of the Yankees organization.
Good.
Aroldis Chapman is not on the New York Yankees playoff roster due to missing a
What?
workout per Brian Hoke.
Missing
Wow.
a workout?
Yeah, so Aroldis Chapman will not be on the playoff roster. He missed a workout and had not an acceptable excuse, Aaron Boone said.
Oh.
Wow.
So
That's...
that's
Well, I mean, and Chapman's had an up and down year, so it's not necessarily the biggest thing, but it's still, 100-mile-per-hour arm out of your bullpen gone.
Yep. And that's a big blow to their bullpen because their bullpen has been one of their strong points this year. Chapman's been one of their strong points this year, so that could change a lot of things when it comes to them versus Cleveland. Because that takes some depth out of the Yankees bullpen.
I've said for a while I think the Indians are pretty good. And they showed in this series like their pitching is pretty on point. That's what you need. You got a couple of good arms in the front of the rotation. Their bullpen, their closer, one of the best in baseball. I would not be surprised at all if they beat the Yankees. Not one bit.
I'd be shocked if they did.
So apparently Chapman, his workout was a live batting practice, and he skipped it. So he didn't want to throw a live BP.
Well,
and that's likely how Aroldis Chapman ends his time in New York.
Yeah.
And if the Yankees lose the series because of bullpen problems, it's because of this right here. This Aroldis Chapman move is what, if that hurts them in the rest of the postseason here or costs them this series, they can thank Chapman.
I don't think it'll go that far. They still have some nasty bullpen options.
Yeah.
Again, it hurts, but it's not the best guy they're leaving behind.
Yeah, that's fair.
It hurts. It's still a deep dagger, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not cutting off the head. It's not slicing the jugular. It's they'll survive the hit.
We do a pretty good job of breaking news every time we go in here. There's always something.
First show we had the continuing A's collapse or the A's fire sale. We still have to give myself credit for absolutely nailing the Juan Soto trade to San Diego.
Yeah. Teach our own. All right, prediction tonight. Padres, Mets, Musgrove, Bassett could be a really, really exciting game. Winner take all. Winner plays the Dodgers. We'll start with John here. What are your thoughts? Put our hatred aside to the mucking Fets, and what do you think? Padres, Mets, Game 3, wild card.
So the team that wins Game 1 of a 3-game series wins 70% of the time. And I think if you're looking at a game and it feels like a toss-up, you probably take the odds. So I'm taking the Padres.
Do you have a score?
4-2.
4-2. Ooh, little low scorer.
A little fancy.
Tim,
so I cannot put my bias aside. I hate the Mets. I will always hate the Mets. And to make this sound like one of my favorite SNL sketches of all time, I'm going to go with the Padres 642,395, Mets 3.
Right.
Bet the over.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm putting my fanism.
Padres.
Yeah, I'm putting my fanism into the Padres. But I also think the problem that the Mets have is they're on that downward spiral since they've lost the division lead, which, mind you, they led for 175 days, and they've been in second place for 6 at the end of the year.
All joking aside, though, I could totally see New York just absolutely throwing down the hammer again.
It's hard to bet against Joe Musgrove, though. Musgrove's been on point all year. I'll take San Diego winning a low. I don't want to say low scoring. I'll say like a 5-3 baseball game. They'll score 2 runs late in the game.
Now we're getting into the runs at any time.
Well, no, I'm saying I think the Mets bullpen is going to be their problem. So once Bassett gets out of the game, we'll see a couple of runs get scored later in the game just for them to extend the lead. Maybe the Mets will score one or two late also. It's so hard to go against Musgrove. I got to see Musgrove pitch this year, and he's
advertised as
Yeah.
advertised.
Yeah. And Bassett, I mean,
another thing to bet, he might throw a 6-leg parlay on the exact inning that a certain run is scored.
yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
I would.
How many runs have you scored in each inning of the game?
Honestly, I don't even know.
Odd or even scored in each inning. 9-leg parlay.
I don't even know what the lines are for this game tonight,
I'll look
to
it
be
up.
honest. Oh, here we go. We got Mets are favored. It's by 1.5, over under of 6.5. So
I take the Padres either run line or the spread, and then I picked the under. You guys,
I took the over.
I don't know. It's hard to say, but you're right. I mean, I think you hit on a good point with the Mets. Like, you can't just cast aside the implosion, right? All the Mets fans are like, oh, they still won 101 games. If it weren't for the Braves, they still would have won their division. But like, you don't live life in a vacuum like that, right? I mean, you did not a collapse in terms of not making the playoffs, but like, you can't just shake it off instantly.
Yeah. The fact that
things now, and I think it's probably in their heads, right?
And let's face it, like the Mets bullpen was their biggest collapse at the end of the season. There, that's been their do or die situation. Like we live by our bullpen. I'm not even talking about just that. I'm saying in general, like that's been their strong point all year, has been their bullpen. Yeah, their offense and their lineups have been great, as we've seen as Phillies fans, but like their bullpen has been so killer. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the season here, that's been their biggest Achilles heel. So, and with the way the Padres lineup is, like, I mean, Tim, you're Juan Soto trade or whatever, but like they still got Machado, and Josh Bell last night had a chance with bases loaded to tie the game.
Yeah,
he swung on a terrible pitch. No reason that you should have bases loaded in the bottom of the top of the ninth inning, up by 4 against the Padres and almost below the game. So that's going to be their biggest. I think we're going to see all the run. Like I'm still taking the over. I think though the Mets bullpen is going to be the reason why this is going to probably be the greatest monumental collapse that Phillies fans will ever see.
Nah, that one's. I mean, there was still the one in 2007.
No, I like this one so much better.
They
went from division
tomorrow.
Oh, dude, I want to see Frank the Tank from Barstool after the Mets would lose. I want to see him going on a tirade like he did the other day when they had to play in the wild card. He was walking through the Barstool office screaming and being like, "I told you that they are so overrated." Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we told you too that they're overrated.
Hashtag right.
Yeah. God, dude, like, can't wait though. I mean, we'll probably have another show this week during one of the games. We're not exactly sure which one yet. We're going to wait and see the schedules and matchups and get our schedules lined up. So we'll have a live show of some games going on. We'll start with John. We're going to be cutting it a little bit shorter than normal today, but I got other stuff I got to take care of today. So do these guys. So John, will go with you with some final thoughts on so far opening weekend of baseball postseason.
Yeah, but I think there's been a couple of outliers, but for the most part, you look at like the Phillies and Cardinals series, you look at like the Rays and the Indian series. Pitching, man. We've seen a lot of gems from starters, a lot of low-scoring games, and then of course we've seen the aberrations like the Mariners Toronto game last night, right? We saw like the Padres Mets game 1. There are going to be some games where you have crazy offense, but I think the teams that are going to make the run are going to be the teams that have the 2 or 3, even 4 strong arms in the front of the rotation that can carry them. And we've kind of said that all along. And Trace, you said about the Phillies from the get-go, the rotation has the potential to carry them in the playoffs because of Wheels and Nola, and now Ranger coming on strong. and a bullpen that's now being a lot better than advertised and expected. So that's kind of my biggest observation so far, I guess.
Timothy, we'll go with you next on your final thoughts so far with opening weekend.
Agree with John there. Good. To sum it up, good pitching always beats good hitting. Muck the Fets. Go Padres.
Yeah.
Red October runs through Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm still very confident that the Houston Astros are your World Series champions. I'm still going to roll on that train. So far, it's been a great weekend of baseball. I've enjoyed being able to watch all the games. Some really exciting moments for sure. Seattle, Toronto is one. Obviously, being a Philly fan, this is exciting. I said it last night. I'll say it today. I don't care what happens after this. It's the fact that we've gotten to where nobody thought we would be, and I'm okay with that. I'd like to see him make a run, but hey, it's been 11 years, and it's been fun so far. So with that, we got one game tonight. We got rest of the playoffs start on Tuesday. We got Wednesday, you got the Dukes of football. We'll be back talking another week of football. Some good college matchups coming up this weekend. We got football games going on today. Currently got Packers and Giants on the TV from London. All of our great partners here at BW Sports 1. Check out our blog at bwsports1.com. For John, Tim, and myself, thanks for tuning in. And we will see you sometime this week for a live show. So tune in, and thanks for joining us.
Muck the Fets.